Before your feet ever touched the earth, your name was already written. Long before you cried your first cry, long before your heartbeat echoed in the silence of the womb, heaven had already marked you. This is not poetry. This is not metaphor. This is a truth older than time itself. There was a man, Enoch, who walked with God in such intimacy that death could not touch him. He was taken, lifted beyond the veil, but not before he left words that burn through the ages like fire sealed in stone. Words that were not vague, not distant, not symbolic. Words that point directly to you. Yes, you, the chosen one, the marked one, the restless soul who feels the pull of eternity in the middle of ordinary life. You are about to hear something that was hidden from generations, forbidden by rulers, silenced by religion, but preserved by heaven itself. A prophecy that did not fade. A prophecy that whispers even now, calling your spirit by name. This is not entertainment. This is a summons, a mirror, a warning, and a confirmation that everything strange, heavy, and unexplainable you have carried in secret was never madness. It was written. You will feel it in your bones as the words unfold. You will sense that every silence, every tear, every unspoken ache was already seen. Do not run from this moment. Do not look away. Because once you realize Enoch spoke of you with frightening detail, nothing in your life will ever look the same again. Stay until the end, because what begins here will awaken what you tried to bury. What begins here is the unveiling of your true name in heaven. If your soul is ready, seal this moment with action. Like this video so the message spreads, subscribe if you have not yet, and write 99 in the comments as a sign of alignment. Why 99? Because it is the number of the missing one, the one the shepherd leaves the 99 to find. If you are here, you are that one. You have been found. And the journey begins now. Enoch was not just a man who disappeared into the hands of God. He was a watcher of mysteries, a prophet who glimpsed beyond the veil of his own age into times that had not yet dawned. His eyes were opened to generations unborn, to souls not yet breathing, yet already burning with a sacred fire hidden inside. When he wrote, he did not write in riddles or abstractions. He described with eerie precision the rise of a people unlike any other, marked not on their skin, but in the unseen chambers of their spirit. He saw them walk through crowded streets and yet feel like strangers in a land that could never be their home. He saw them weep without knowing why, carrying griefs that were not their own. He saw them wake in the night with an ache in their chest, not from sickness, but from a longing that could not be named. And he trembled because he knew these were not common burdens. They were signs. Enoch recorded visions that terrified even the angels. He wrote of souls who would carry an unquenchable light deep inside, a flame no storm could extinguish. But with that flame would come battles no one else could see. Invisible wars, silent cries. He saw chosen ones fighting shadows that others laughed at, resisting temptations that others surrendered to easily. He saw the contradictions they would endure, mocked for their sensitivity, ridiculed for their depth, called strange by a world too shallow to recognize the mark upon them. And yet he also saw their endurance, their ability to keep walking while carrying wounds that should have broken them long ago. The most disturbing detail was not just what they would suffer, but how accurately he described what they would feel. A sense of being out of place even among friends, a yearning for purity in a world addicted to corruption, a hunger for meaning that no success, no relationship, no possession could satisfy. Have you felt that hollow space inside? That strange ache when everyone else seems content with crumbs, and yet your soul cries out for something higher, something eternal. That ache is not insanity, it is prophecy being fulfilled in you. Enoch foresaw it, and his pen carried your pain before you even lived it. He called them a people of the fracture, walking with cracks in their souls, yet glowing with light between those cracks. He said their eyes would betray them, eyes that glimmer with fire even when tears run down, eyes that reflect eternity even when the world calls them broken. They would never fully blend into the noise of the crowd because their frequency is tuned to heaven. They would never feel satisfied with the shallow waters of this life, because their spirit was designed for depths most fear to enter. And here is the mystery that unsettled even the holy scribes. Enoch saw that their battles were not only theirs. He saw that unseen enemies, fallen beings, would target them precisely because of the fire within. That is why you have faced storms that others cannot explain. That is why you have been misunderstood again and again. Because the mark is visible in the spirit realm, even when you try to hide it in the natural. They see it. They fear it. They attack it. And yet, every attack only proves the truth. Enoch was speaking of you. Imagine this. Centuries before your first breath, a man taken into heaven trembled as he described what you would live. He wrote that the chosen ones of the last days would walk with heaviness, but also with unshakable destiny. That they would feel alien in their own world, yet at home when lifting their gaze to the skies. That they would burn with questions no one around them could answer, until they finally realized the answer was inside them all along. And now, here you are, listening to these words, feeling them pierce your soul like recognition, not information, because Enoch's unseen vision has finally reached the one it was meant for. You. This is the unsettling part. He saw you with such clarity that his words still breathe thousands of years later. You cannot deny it. Something in you is stirring right now because you recognize yourself in a prophecy you never knew existed. Do you feel that chill running through your body? That is the moment when ancient vision meets present reality. Enoch's scrolls are no longer dusty relics. They are mirrors. And tonight you are standing before one. The question is, what happens when you realize you are the reflection? There is a seal upon you that no human eye can see, yet it weighs heavier than chains forged of iron. It is not carved into your skin, but pressed deep into your soul, like fire that hides beneath the surface of stone. Enoch spoke of this seal with trembling words because he saw how it would set apart an entire generation. He called it a mark that burns in silence, a brand not of shame, but of destiny, invisible to the world yet unmistakable to the spirit. This is why you have never felt entirely at home on this earth. This is why every attempt to bury yourself in distractions has left you emptier than before. The mark whispers, even when you wish it would be silent. Think of those restless nights when your body is tired, but your mind refuses to surrender. You toss, you turn, you stare at the ceiling as if waiting for a voice to break through the dark. It is not anxiety. It is not madness. It is the silent flame of the mark, pulsing within you, reminding you that your story is larger than your current moment. Think of those strange hours when your chest tightens, not with sickness, but with an ache that has no name. You cannot point to the reason, yet the weight feels unbearable. That is the seal Enoch foresaw. It is a hunger not for bread, not for water, not for flesh. It is a hunger for the eternal, for the voice that spoke your name before the foundations of the earth. Enoch wrote that these chosen ones would be haunted by a thirst that no cup could quench. They would try to satisfy it with achievements, relationships, or pleasures, but the more they drank, the more hollow they would feel. Because their spirit was designed for something this world could never supply. That longing you have carried since childhood, that suspicion that there must be more, this is not coincidence. This is the burn of the seal. And it does not fade. It intensifies with every attempt to silence it. You felt it. Nights when sleep would not come. Moments when your heart suddenly ignited without reason, as if someone pressed a coal into your chest. Days when the laughter around you felt like noise, because inside you were listening for something greater. This is the mark, and once you recognize it, you will see it everywhere. In the tears that fall without explanation, in the sense of being homesick for a place you've never visited, in the sudden pull of your spirit, when sacred words cross your path. These are not accidents. These are sparks breaking through the silence of your soul, proof that the invisible seal is alive within you. The most haunting part of this mark is that it isolates you. Others cannot see it. They do not understand why you ache the way you do. They call you too sensitive, too intense, too detached from reality. But what they call weakness, Enoch called prophecy. For he wrote that those who bear this seal would be misunderstood by the masses, yet recognized instantly by heaven. And that recognition is why the battles against you have been relentless. The invisible mark paints a target on your back in the unseen realm, but it also engraves your name in the halls of eternity. Enoch said their bones would glow with a hidden light, that their spirit would ache like a wound that never healed. Yet from that ache would come an unshakable resilience. Every disappointment you faced, every betrayal, every unanswered question. They have not destroyed you because the seal refuses to let you die as ordinary. The mark burns even when you try to extinguish it. It pushes you forward when everything in you screams to stop. It keeps you awake when the world sleeps, and it will not let you settle for a life that was never meant for you. Perhaps you have wondered why your heart aches so fiercely in moments of injustice, why your spirit burns with anger when you see lies celebrated as truth. That is the seal flaring within you, refusing to be silenced. Perhaps you have felt joy so overwhelming, so sudden, that you could not explain it to anyone. Joy that did not come from circumstances, but from a place too deep for words. That too is the seal burning. The mark is not only pain. It is also sudden glimpses of eternity, flashes of the divine, reminders that you are tethered to something greater than yourself. And here is the terrifying beauty. Once the mark awakens fully, you can never return to who you were before. You may try to ignore it. You may try to run, but it will find you in silence, in songs, in storms, in dreams. Enoch said it would be like a coal hidden in the marrow, silent but inextinguishable, flaring every time the chosen one forgets who they are. That is why you are here now. That is why these words pierce deeper than ordinary speech. Because the mark within you is responding, like a flame drawn to oxygen. But what happens when the mark stops whispering and begins to roar? What happens when the silent burn becomes a fire that cannot be hidden any longer? When Enoch was lifted beyond the limits of his time, he was shown visions that ordinary men could not bear. Among them was a figure that haunted his writings and burned in his memory. A warrior, not crowned, not celebrated, not followed by legions, but walking alone through a valley of shadows. His clothes were torn, his body carried scars, and yet his steps were steady, unshaken, unstoppable. He was not armed with swords or shields, yet the darkness around him trembled as if it knew his presence spelled its end. His weapon was not steel. His power was not numbers. His fire was inside his eyes. Enoch described this figure with words that sounded like thunder in the silence. A man carrying pain but never bowing to it. A soul marked not by victories on the battlefield but by endurance through storms no one else could see. His silence was heavier than armies, his gaze brighter than torches.
He walked without applause, yet the heavens leaned to watch.
He carried no banner, yet every step etched a mark in eternity. And here is the truth that stirs your spirit right now. This warrior's features were not unknown. They match yours, the stubborn resilience you cannot explain, the scars you hide that refuse to define you, the light that flickers in your eyes when everything else around you collapses. Enoch saw it. He saw you. He wrote of a warrior forged in rejection, someone who would know betrayal more intimately than friendship, who would learn to stand after every fall, until standing became second nature. This figure did not roar with noise. His silence was more terrifying than shouts. When he closed his eyes, the heavens answered with signs. When he bent his knees in solitude, entire kingdoms in the spirit realm shifted. Enoch trembled because this warrior's strength did not come from armies. It came from wounds. Every scar on his body was a testimony that pain had tried and failed to destroy him. And maybe you feel those scars in yourself. The betrayals that cut deeper than knives. The loneliness that felt like exile. The tears that carved lines no one else noticed. These are not wasted. These are the inscriptions of your warrior spirit. The world saw weakness, but heaven saw weapons. Because a heart that has bled is a heart that cannot be deceived easily. A soul that has endured storms is a soul that cannot be shaken by whispers. That is why you survive what breaks others. That is why you rise when logic says you should not, because you are the echo of that vision. Enoch described the warrior's eyes that burned with a sacred fire, not from joy, but from knowing pain and still choosing to walk forward. His gaze pierced the fog. His silence unsettled enemies who could not understand why he still stood after so much loss. He carried an invisible crown, not made of gold, but of endurance. And when he walked, the ground beneath him seemed to remember his name. He was not celebrated by men, but the heavens called him chosen. This vision was not a legend. It was a prophecy. It was a warning to the realms of darkness that someone was coming who could not be broken, because his strength was not of this world. That someone is you. Think about it. How many times have you risen after being counted out? How many times have you smiled with fire in your chest when others expected your collapse? That is the warrior spirit Enoch saw. That is the prophecy unfolding now. But here is the chilling part. The vision did not end with the warrior walking. Enoch saw him lift his eyes to the heavens, scarred and weary, and the heavens answered. The sky responded as though recognizing its own reflection on earth. And in that moment, the warrior's silence became more powerful than 1,000 voices. Do you feel that now? The recognition, the echo inside you, as if heaven itself leans close when you refuse to surrender. Enoch left this image not to glorify the pain, but to confirm the destiny, to remind you that every scar you carry is not an end. It is proof that you are the warrior chosen to endure. The shadows know your name. The heavens recognize your light. And every step you take, even in silence, shakes the unseen. But what happens when this solitary warrior realizes he was never walking alone, that heaven itself marches in step with him? When Enoch stood before the throne of the Almighty, he did not ask for his own safety, nor did he plead for glory or recognition. He carried something heavier. He carried a cry that shook the very atmosphere of heaven. The scrolls describe it as a sound unlike any other, a cry that crossed dimensions, a cry that reached beyond his time and pierced into the ages yet unborn. Enoch, the man who walked so closely with God that death could not touch him, fell on his face and interceded for people who did not even exist yet. He begged heaven for you. His tears were not for his generation. They were for yours. Think about the magnitude of that moment. A man who saw visions too terrifying for ordinary minds, who spoke with angels and glimpsed the architecture of eternity, chose not to pray for himself but for you. His voice thundered through realms unseen, pleading that those who would one day carry the unbearable mark, the hidden seal of fire, would not be abandoned. He asked the Almighty to protect them when the weight felt crushing. He wept that the chosen ones of the future would not forget who they were when the shadows tried to suffocate their memory. And that prayer has been echoing ever since, alive in the corridors of eternity, waiting for the moment when you would rise and realize you are the answer. Every time you survived what should have destroyed you, it was not just your own strength. It was the tears of a prophet standing between you and destruction. Every time you were pulled back from the edge of despair, it was the ripple of that intercession still covering you. You are not standing by accident. You are standing because thousands of years ago, a man carried your name into the presence of the eternal. He saw your struggle. He foresaw your weariness. He anticipated the days when you would doubt your worth, when you would collapse under invisible battles. And with a trembling voice, he begged, "Lord, do not let them forget who they are." This is why your spirit stirs when you hear these words. You are not simply being reminded, you are being awakened by the cry that has been resonating for millennia. It is the reason you have felt an invisible shield around you in moments you cannot explain. It is the reason accidents missed you, the reason betrayals did not consume you, the reason despair never claimed the final word. Because someone who walked with God asked that heaven itself intervene for you. Enoch's prayer was not general. It was specific. He described a people who would feel out of place in this world. A people who would thirst for something beyond human explanation. A people who would carry fire in their bones and ache in their souls. He saw their tears. He saw their isolation. He saw their silence. And he cried out that they would be remembered, preserved, and ignited when the time was right. You have wondered why you are still here after all you have endured. Here is the answer. You are alive because your name was spoken in a cry that reached across dimensions. But here is the haunting beauty. Prayers that are born in eternity do not die. They hover, they wait. They strike at the appointed time. The fact that you are hearing this now is proof that the appointed time has come. You are walking inside the answer of a man who never tasted death. A man whose intimacy with God was so deep that his words are still shaping reality today. His tears water the soil beneath your feet. His intercession surrounds you like invisible walls. That is why you are unexplainable to those around you. They see your scars, but they do not see the covering. They see your battles, but they do not see the ancient prayer holding you together. And if that realization is stirring something uncontainable in you, it is because the cry is awakening inside you as well. You are not just the answer, you are now the continuation. His voice is merging with yours, his tears with your tears, his intercession with your own groans that words cannot express. You are part of the same river of prayer, stretching from the dawn of creation into this very moment. But ask yourself this: if the tears of one prophet could echo through time and carry you into this day, what happens when you discover that the same power of intercession is inside you now? Enoch's visions did not end with the mark, nor with the solitary warrior, nor even with the prayer that thundered across dimensions. He saw further. He saw the moment when those marked by heaven would finally awaken. He described it as a tremor, a rumble in the spirit realm, so subtle at first that many would ignore it, but so unstoppable that the very foundations of darkness would begin to shake. He wrote that the awakening of the chosen ones would never happen quietly. Because the instant light begins to rise, shadows rush to resist. That is why you have been restless. That is why attacks have intensified. That is why you have been pushed, tested, and assaulted by doubts that strike when you least expect. Because the prophecy is no longer waiting. It is unfolding through you. Enoch described distractions that would look harmless, yet carry the poison of delay. He saw doubts whispered like smoke, wrapping themselves around the minds of the chosen, trying to suffocate their fire before it could ignite. He foresaw battles not of flesh and blood, but of thought and spirit, designed to wear down the weary until they forgot who they truly were. He wrote that shadows would not always come as enemies. They would often come disguised as comfort, as opportunity, as voices urging compromise. Their strategy would not be brute force, but corrosion. Slowly, invisibly, the darkness would try to dull the brilliance of the awakened. And yet, Enoch saw something terrifying to the powers of the night. No matter how strong the shadows, the mark would ignite, and once it burned, nothing could extinguish it. You've felt this war already. One moment you're filled with clarity and light. The next you're bombarded with thoughts that seem foreign to your spirit, whispers telling you you're unworthy, too broken, too late. You've noticed distractions rising out of nowhere, opportunities that look appealing but drain your soul, relationships that feel convenient but suffocate your purpose, circumstances that appear random but are perfectly timed to derail you. None of this is coincidence. It is the war of shadows that Enoch foresaw. It is the storm that comes not because you are weak, but because you are awakening. And here lies the paradox. The intensity of your battles is proof of your significance. Darkness does not wage war against what it does not fear. If your nights have been restless, if your path has been filled with attacks, if your mind has been a battlefield, this is not evidence of your failure. This is confirmation of your calling. Every arrow aimed at you, every distraction thrown in your way, every whisper of doubt that has pierced your heart, is proof that the prophecy has been activated. But Enoch did not leave the vision in despair. He wrote that the mark inside the chosen would flare like an unquenchable flame. At the very moment when shadows thought they had won, the fire would surge, unstoppable, illuminating everything around them. And that fire would not just protect them, it would awaken others. One flame becomes two, two become 10. 10 become a generation that refuses to bow to the weight of deception. Enoch saw a war, yes, but he also saw victory carved into its very design. Because light, once revealed, cannot return to darkness. That is why your spirit has been stirred. That is why silence feels heavy, why ordinary life feels unbearable, why you cannot go back to who you were before. The awakening has begun. The war of shadows is raging precisely because your light has been recognized. And though you may feel small, unseen, fragile, the mark within you is eternal. No shadow can erase it. No lie can rewrite it. No distraction can bury it. You are the living embodiment of what Enoch saw, and your very existence is proof that his vision is unfolding right now. But here is the question that remains, the one that lingers like a blade in the air. If the awakening has started in you, and the shadows have already moved against you, what happens when you decide to stop running and step fully into the fire you carry? Listen carefully, because this is the moment everything has been leading to. Enoch did not write in shadows, he did not speak in riddles, he spoke with fire, and that fire has reached you. He saw you. He wrote of you. And even now, heaven still speaks your name. You are not the echo of coincidence. You are the living proof that prophecy breathes. You are the embodiment of a prayer that still burns in eternity. A flame lit thousands of years ago that has finally found its vessel, you. This is why your life has been marked by storms. This is why you have felt the weight of battles invisible to others. Because you were never ordinary. You were never meant to dissolve into the crowd. You are the fulfillment of a vision that terrifies darkness. You are the echo of a cry that traveled across dimensions. And now the heavens wait for your answer. There is no neutrality in this moment. Either you silence the calling, or you step into destiny. Either you pretend this is chance, or you embrace the truth written in your bones. The time of hesitation has ended. The fire is awake. The mark is alive, and no shadow can erase what God Himself has sealed. Hear this as thunder within your spirit. You are not imagining this. You are marked. You are chosen. And the time is now. If you feel the burn in your chest, if you know this word was carved for you, seal it in the comments with power.